Hello, everybody. This is WEEB'S, and welcome to this new project that, if anyone knows me, I used to have an older channel and I used to have a podcast, and I quite enjoyed doing that, for a while. But the problem that I always had was that having a podcast by yourself is kind of tiring and kind of weird because you don't have anybody to bounce off of. It's just you talking. And stuff happened, time passed by, but I had a few people who kept asking me if I would return to podcasting. And I told them, just you wait, and I think I will figure something out. And here we are, where I figured it out. And there is the launch of this new podcast, which I like to call the Otaku Overload. And the reason for that is that in this podcast, me and my co-host, which I'll introduce in a second, we sit down every week, hopefully every week, and we talk about just pop culture stuff with a big emphasis on games and anime. Now, over on my channel, anybody knows I do all sorts of gaming, let's plays, and a few retrospectives here and there, even the occasional gaming news. But I would like to do more, which is what I kind of thought about starting this podcast. The other thing, though, is the anime part. I really want to talk about anime. I've watched a ton of anime and read a bunch of manga. I really would love to suggest more series and stuff to people, but doing the videos is kind of hard because you have to edit them and not get the copyright struck for showing the images and the footage, that sort of thing. So I thought that a podcast would be an excellent way to be able to talk about a bunch of anime and, like I said, video games, and just share it with everybody, get it out there, and if people like what they hear, they can check it out for themselves. So that's why I want to do the podcast. Now, as I said, the Otaku Overload would be nothing if it wasn't for my co-host. So let me introduce the legend of Jonathan, who will be the other half of this podcast. Say hello.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's me, the legend Jonathan. I am back for this podcast. I'm super happy to be here, and yeah, you heard the man. We're gonna be here almost hopefully every week. And yeah, let's just get into this. I've tried having my own podcast before, but I'm just happy to hopefully this works.
Yeah, the thing about having a podcast, for me, it was hard because I was there myself. For you, I know you tried to do it with some friends, but there was that problem with inconsistency, right?
Inconsistency, not wanting to do it, being like, some of them would actually just be lazy too. They would be like, no, I just don't want to do it at all, because they were like tired, or they just didn't want to do it in general. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, I don't really have any way to do it with.
Exactly. That's how I decided to team up. So we'll have to see how far this goes, because we prepared a long time for it. We even have the art, all the good stuff, and we'll have to see how it goes. But I'm excited to get into it.
Yo, me too.
Yeah. So to give you guys kind of a rundown of how we think, things could change, but for now, what we think each podcast will be like is that we'll start with a little bit of an introduction, introduce ourselves as usual, in case there's some new listeners. Then we will go into our week, since this is supposed to be like about a week apart, and maybe talk about stuff that we've played or watched, stuff that we recommend, stuff that we want, maybe feel like you guys should stay away from, etc. Kind of tell you what we've been up to. Then from that, we will move on to a bit of pop culture news, or if there's any big headlines that we think are important to share that you guys might be interested in, like an announcement or something, we'll talk about those. And then, which should be like the biggest part of the podcast, like the big chunk of it, is that every week we will have some sort of a topic or some sort of a theme that we're gonna go with. So like I said, I really want to share all sorts of especially anime and manga for people to watch, because I feel like anime and manga just come out so frequently now. There's so many being thrown out at us at any given time.
So for like a person, it's like, where do you start?
Yeah, or like you might be like, oh man, I like this thing, like where else could I go? And I don't know. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I just think it'd be really fun to be like, hey, in case you missed like this anime, you should go watch it. Or did you ever even hear about this anime? Go watch that. So we'll probably share a few things like that. So
it sounds pretty cool,
Yeah. So like I said, let's get started, and I guess I'll go first. So I'll only talk about the last week because obviously I could talk about from here to the beginning of time, since this is the first podcast. But it just give you guys a little bit of a look at my last week. Not only were we busy with the channel, because if anyone knows, WeRabbit, go to my channel, me and Legend of Jonathan, we're doing a Spooktober special. We were playing a few horror video games, or like scary video games, whatever.
They were very scary, bro.
Yeah. So not only were we playing that, and was I getting that ready, But I guess when it comes to stuff I was playing or watching, etc., something I was playing recently is Persona 5 Royal on the Switch. That finally got ported to the Switch. I did play it obviously when it first came out on the PS4, but with it being on the Switch, I wanted to try it out. And sure enough, I've been playing through it a bit. I didn't like quite deep dive into it like when it was on the PS4, since I do, like, I've already played the game before. But I still played it a bit just to see what it was like, and I've been enjoying that. Just steady pace. And I gotta admit, I think it's really, really good on the Switch. I have not noticed any issues with it.
Same. I have
Yeah.
not noticed anything.
Yeah, I think a big part of what helps is that even though the game's very stylized and it has like a lot going on, I think it helps because number one, it has a lot of like anime cutscenes.
Mhm.
So it's not like it has to like render these like, crazy high fidelity like cutscenes, right? Like in engine.
They should. Okay.
I know, right? And the other thing is that because everything's turn based, that helps too, because it's like there's not a lot happening on screen at once. You're fighting like a few enemies at a time. So it's not like one of those games where there's like a lot to like render, like a whole city to render, like a whole environment. So I haven't noticed any problems with it on the Switch. It seems like it's run pretty well for me, honestly. I haven't noticed anything bad up to now, and I'm like a couple of dungeons in or whatever. So and I've been having fun with that. That game is just so good. I know a lot of people are like, oh, did Royal even add anything? I think it did. I think it added quite a few things that I think really they give you a reason to go back and play the game if you played the original, like base version. And like I said, it just runs well on the Switch. So I've just been having a lot of fun with that, and I would recommend it. And I'm really looking forward to when part 3 and 4 come out as well, because I've been wanting those on a handheld since forever. So I'm really excited to see when those come out. When it comes to stuff that I've watched, haven't been able to watch as many anime as I've been wanting to. Hopefully I will fix that, the next coming weeks. But when it comes to stuff that I've watched, obviously there's no way I wouldn't miss it. I am up to date with Chainsaw Man, and Chainsaw Man is awesome. I mean, it has the potential to be like the next big thing, I think. You know what I mean? It's just so good. Like the lore is good, the characters are good, the action is good. Like the style of it is like so crazy and stuff. And
the characters are hot.
Yeah, the characters are hot. Like, oh man, like
Power.
Like Power and Denji with his like weird crooked teeth, Denji's super hot. And the little dog, that little dog.
That dog, right?
Pachita, no, I was kidding. No, but yeah, all the characters are super cool and stuff. And man, just like if you haven't read the manga, I mean, I would say obviously watch the anime, but if you can read the manga, go read it first. It's just so good. And I swear like you'll get into it. I mean, if it's your thing. If it's not your thing, you probably won't enjoy it. But if it is your thing, like trust me, like you'll start it and you'll probably like finish it super quick because it's just such an easy read, and you'll get like so invested in it. But I guess like I've been kind of rambling about it, just in case anyone's wondering, like, what is Chainsaw Man? It is this manga series. Obviously, it's getting an adaptation to an anime, and it's about this world where basically there's these things called devils, and they are based on human fears. So the stronger someone has a fear of it, the stronger that devil is. So there's like a gun devil, a chainsaw devil, a death devil, stuff like that. Because these are things that people are scared of. And like I said, the more scared people are of it, the stronger these like devils are or whatever. And in this world, there's these people called devil hunters that they hunt and destroy these devils. That way they won't hurt humanity. Right like in the middle between devil hunters and the devils is that there are some people, I guess you call them like fiends or whatever, that they are people who have the power of some of these devils. Like they've made like a contract with them, like a little bit of a deal, and they can use their power. And so they work for like the human side, but they're fighting and destroying the devils. And basically where our story, what it focuses on, our boy Denji, that's the main character.
Let's go.
He's like, honestly, he's like a 15-year-old kid that when his dad died, none of this is spoilers. It happens in the first chapters, first episode. It's just a setup. But his dad died and he owed money to the Yakuza. And so when he died, basically the Yakuza's like, yo, you inherited his debt, which is like a really astronomical amount. It's like really, really high. And so they use him almost like a dog to like do all of their dirty work, and they pay him very, very little. Like let's say he ends up finding a devil called Pochita, which is like a little chainsaw dog. Like it's like a dog that has like a chainsaw coming out of its like snout.
Wow.
And he teams up and he uses it as a weapon to defeat devils. And even though he's supposed to get paid really well, let's say for defeating a devil, let's say it's like, I don't know, he's supposed to get, let's say like just an example, like I don't know, let's say like 100,000 for defeating a devil, right? Yeah. But then the guy who's his handler is like, oh, but then there's like the cleanup cost and the cost of this and that, blah blah.
That's bullshit.
So he lets him keep like 7,000 yen.
Wow.
So that's why he's never going to get any out of debt, because this guy keeps like abusing him. And it's sad because when it starts, he's even sold some of his body parts. Like, he sold an eye, a testicle, like a kidney, stuff like that. And so our boy's just living in debt. He's the poorest of the poor. He's basically a slave. And what happens is his luck changes when, I won't describe what happens and not ruin it, but let's say there's a bit of a betrayal and he ends up getting killed. But because he had Pochita with him, Pochita says, because he's a devil, he's like, I always appreciate how you took care of me and how you said that your dream was to like live like a happy life, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I will become your heart and I will like bring you back to life if you promise me that you'll live that life that you always talked about. And so Pochita basically becomes his heart. And now from his chest, he has like this like ripcord. And when he pulls it, he becomes Chainsaw Man.
That's crazy.
And that's how all of this, like, that's how he gets into all of this, because he becomes Chainsaw Man. He gets fully healed. All his body parts are back. And he becomes a part of this hit squad that kills devils. And trust me, like, the story is great. There's great designs, really creepy designs. There's a lot of like really funny comedy, really quirky characters, and etc. But it's just like this really, really, really badass series that it's just so good. It's like really creative. That's why people feel like right now it might be like the next big thing, because it's just like so well done. It's like really,
it sounds that origin story sounds pretty good, honestly.
Yeah, and it's like a really
like for a superhero character, that would be pretty good.
And that's the thing too. He's not a superhero. Like, he does kind of do what's right, but he's just like a super goofy character that is not afraid to fight dirty. If people die, he doesn't really care, honestly. That's another part of Denji. He is like so simple-minded that he's just so happy to be alive and living a peaceful life. Then when it comes to like, what's your goal for life then, Denji? What do you want? He's like, well, I never had a girlfriend before. So I guess my next big goal is to like touch some boobs. That'd be cool.
Wow.
Like, that's his goal right now. That's what he looks forward to in life, because he's never had anything. And he's like, well, I mean, I guess that would be pretty cool. If I live to like experience that, that'd be fun. So yeah, just very simple-minded, very, kind of like living day by day and stuff. So
that sounds pretty hot.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And like you said, later he meets all these other characters, which you got to watch it. You got to see their relationships. It's super fun. Besides Chainsaw Man, the other series that I was watching a bit was, oh my God, what was it called? Oh my God, I'm totally blinking on the name right now. Oh my God, I can't remember.
Give me a hint.
I'm not gonna remember what it's called. It's that one about the senpai and the little short girl that's following him around.
Oh yeah. I know that one. Yeah.
It's something wants to hang out. I forget what the name is. I'm blanking on it right now.
Uzaki.
Something like that. Yeah. I've been watching that one because it's in the second season. I'm caught up with that one as well. And there's not really much to say about it. It's just like a fun, kind of ecchi comedy, thing. There's a bit of romance, obviously, between the two characters. And there's not really much to say about it because it's not deep or anything at all. It's just very simple. It's just fun because, it's about how this girl, it's really short. She's literally the definition of short stack. And even though on Twitter they love to like be weird about her, she is a college student. She's an adult. She just happens to be like really short. She's a short stack.
And she just happens to have big boobs. Yeah.
Yeah, like that exists in real life, guys. Like, it's not, I don't know. But anyway, the point is, this girl, she knows the senpai from high school. They used to be on the same like swim team or something. And this guy, I don't know, that's always the thing in Japanese media where it's like, oh, the guy has like a really like evil look, or like he has like a stare that makes him look scary. So no one hangs out with him and everyone like kind of like, it's that sort of thing. But because she knows him, because they were on the same club, she has like a soft spot for him and she likes to like hang around with him. And she says that, she feels kind of bad for him because no one pays attention to him and everyone ignores him and stuff. And so it's about how she starts hanging out with him. And at first, he kind of sees her as a nuisance because she's kind of clingy and she's like very like she'll invite herself over and she doesn't like leave his house, that sort of thing. But it's because it becomes about how over time their relationship does grow and they enjoy having each other around and they kind of develop romantic feelings, that sort of thing. And like I said, it's just a lot of comedy, a lot of edgy stuff. Has to do with like misunderstandings and like that sort of thing. Has to do with the characters around them wanting to hook them up, stuff like that. And just really simple, but it's just fun. If you're looking for just like some simple, dumb fun, that's it. It's like some simple, dumb fun where it's just like, it's just a simple story about people hanging out.
The anime is pretty good.
Yeah, and it's just about watching like their shenanigans and what they do. So once again, not very deep or anything, but it's just a fun series.
The mom's hot too.
Oh, yeah, and it's so funny because there's shenanigans with the mom where every time he goes over, he wants to like pet their cats. But the cats or it's one cat in general, I think. That's like an older cat. And so he says like he wants to pet the cat and like do all these things. The mom keeps thinking that he's like hitting on her and he wants to like get with her. She gets all nervous.
Yeah.
And that's so dumb. And then like the daughter's like, oh, it's because she's older, this and that. So she's a bit weary. And they're talking about the cat and how the cat's like older and like distrustful. And like the mom thinks they're talking about her, how she's old. And like, I don't know. It's so dumb. That's what I'm saying. There's like so much comedy from just misunderstandings and dumb stuff. So it's funny, man.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny anime.
Yeah. Like I said, that's all I've really watched though. Those are the ones I'm caught up with right now. Like I want to watch the new Bleach that just started. I want to watch this one about it's like I got reincarnated as a sword or something. This guy gets reincarnated as a sword, but then like the main character is this cat girl that uses him, and she's like the hero. It looks kind of fun. I don't know. There's like a few things that came back this season, either with like a new season or like a reboot, that sort of thing that I want to watch. But so far, I haven't really caught up. So I'm saying that's it for me. That's all I've watched really. But I'm hoping in coming weeks, like mention more stuff, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of reboots, I don't know if that's where you want to start, but I know that you've been watching something, so I don't know if you want to jump over to your week.
Oh, let's go. I've been on the stuff that I've been watching. I've been watching the Urusei Yatsura remake. It's been pretty good. To give a basis of what Urusei Yatsura is, it's about this guy, this kid named Ataru Moroboshi, and how one day while he's out with his by this point they break up, but he's with his girlfriend and she breaks up with him because he's like a pervert and stuff, and he's like looking at other girls and stuff. But basically he walks back home because while this like Buddhist monk dude named Cherry, he bothers him, and the government is trying to look for him because they're going to bring him back to his house because there's this giant Oni dude just sitting in his living room. And the reason, it's really weird. And the reason why is because they wanted to take over the earth. But in order to do that, to make it fair, they wanted to play a game of tag because, tag in Japan, it starts with Oni at the beginning and, all that stuff. So
it's just like a dumb pun, basically.
It's the pun stuff, yeah. Okay. And they were using a computer to choose whoever on the planet was going to challenge them, and guess who the unlucky guy was? Ataru Moroboshi. And he's kind of like, okay, what am I going to do? Like, how am I going to fight you guys? Because they made it sound like he was going to have to fight them to a literal death. And they're like, no, it's just a game of tag. Your opponent is actually my daughter because the Oni dude, his name is Mr. Invader. He's like I guess you could say like he's like the ruler of the Oni race. Yeah. He's like, you're gonna have to challenge my daughter Lum to a game of tag. And when she shows up, let's just say that she's very like hot. And he starts getting kind of perverted as well, Ataru, and he's like, oh yeah, like if I'm gonna have to like tag her because they told him that he has to grab her by the horns in order to win. He's like, well, if I have to grab her horns, then I'm gonna have to grab her body first. And since she's wearing a bikini, like it's kind of like he gets started like being perverted.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, if you look at the art for it, it's this girl with blue hair, little horns on her head,
green hair.
Oh, it's a greenish blue. Yeah, it's a green hair, little horns on her head, and she's wearing like a leopard print,
like a tiger print
bikini.
Bikini, yeah. So
And
like
like
yeah, whenever
boots, yeah.
and like go-go boots, yeah.
Yeah.
And so basically, like, yeah, he's trying to train for that day where he can win. And he keeps failing over the course of, I think it was like 6 or 10 days. Yeah, I think it's like 6 now I think about it. And of course it had to be 6 because it's one of those numbers that happens to just, And he's trying to win. And obviously by like one of the third or second to last day, he starts losing his mind because the thing is her powers are that she has electricity and the other one is that she can fly. And since he's a human, it's kind of like, where's his advantage? Like, so he's like, what am I supposed to do? And so he starts like losing his mind. And well, yeah, like she's staying by his side. His girlfriend's like, well, if you win, well, actually, real quick, her name's Shinobu. Shinobu's like, hey, if you win, then I'll marry you. So he finds a motivation to actually win. And so when he goes and he challenges her on the last day, he actually finds a real good advantage and he puts all of his speed and everything into it. And so when he catches up, he actually grabs her by the boobs and yeah, I know.
Oh, wow.
So
it had to be right. It had to
be. And he pulls off her bra. And when he realizes that, he's like, oh boy, like I actually have an advantage because she was like really pissed. And he's like, okay, then come after me to grab the the bra out of your hand, my hand. And so when she tries to grab him, he like dodges her like Ultra Instinct style, basically. And he grabs her by the horns from behind. And because this idiot was saying that he wanted to get married and that he was going to get married throughout the whole entire match, she started associating that with, oh my God, you want to marry me. So later when everyone's all happy that, he saved the earth and everything, she's like, you know what? Like now I think about it, if you really want to, then yeah, I'll get married with you.
Wow, that's so dumb.
Yeah. And then the thing is, it was a miscommunication. And so Shinobu's like, wow, so you really are going to like get married with this like alien, blah, blah, blah. And she gets upset and she leaves. Wow. And so from there, it's just like, well, because there's 3 episodes. These 3 episodes are basically just Taro trying to get back with Shinobu while Lum is interfering and quote unquote interfering, because the thing is obviously he doesn't like Lum that way, Yeah. And so from there it's just kind of like these wacky adventures where him being unlucky, he has to deal with her. Then Shinobu, she's just kind of like, you're a pig, blah blah blah, so like I don't want to be involved with you, but then she kind of does. And then so
it's a weird like love triangle with all sorts of misadventures. And
that's what they said. It's a weird love triangle.
Oh, okay.
And then in this 3rd episode, at the end of the 2nd one and this 3rd episode, it was about this rich dude. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. I think it's like Shotaro or Shotaro Mendo. And yeah, we'll just call him Mendo because everyone calls him that. Mendo, he's like this snobby, handsome, like rich dude. And he arrives at the high school. And at first, because Shinobu like apparently was chasing Ataro and Lum and trying to hit them with like a desk, she grabs it and throws it out the window. And since this rich snobby dude was like, he arrived and whatnot, he fell out of a plane. He like jumped out of a plane. That's why.
How? Why?
He's rich.
Okay.
And so he jumps out the plane.
Sure, I guess.
And he has the parachute and it has like his family's crest is an octopus. And they're like, what the hell is that thing? And then they see that it's him. And he's like, oh, like who threw that desk, blah, blah, blah. And that's when she's like, oh, Shinobu's like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. And then that's when she's like, oh, well, such a beautiful face, blah, blah, blah. He starts flirting with her. And since he's handsome, all the girls are like, oh, she's so lucky, blah, blah, blah. And then Ataro's kind of like, and Lum are kind of like, who the hell is this guy? And then Ataro kind of tells Shinobu, he's like, hey, like Earth to Shinobu, like, come on, like. And then her, since she found the next best thing, basically, she like beats the shit out of him.
Oh
like,
my God.
Kicks him and everything.
Yeah.
And then that's why Mendo, since Mendo's kind of an asshole towards guys, he's like, who's that like thing that's behind you, bothering you, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, it's nothing, blah, blah. And so later, even Ataru's kind of like, why are you with this guy if he's like snobby and stuff? And she's kind of just like, no, it's because like he's handsome, he's like nicer, and like he has like more money and blah blah blah.
Damn. So
Yeah,
it goes from a love triangle to like a love square now.
yeah.
Nice.
And then to make it worse, at first, Lum just kind of gets introduces herself to Mendo, and Mendo kind of says like, okay, who the hell are you, you know? And then she's just like, well, I'm not a schoolgirl, I'm just an alien. And he's like, okay, well, like, yeah, like what are you doing here? And then yeah, she's just kind of like, oh, I'm here because my husband, my darling, he's here. And she's like, wait, you're married to this ugly bastard, basically.
Jeez.
And then he's like, look at that ugly nose, look at those ugly those dumb eyes, look at that terrible mouth. Who can marry this guy? And she gets mad. And then this dumbass, because they want to run for class president, the dude's all evil, the Mendo dude, he's like, yeah, like we should like increase the punishment by how do you say it? Like, oh, like we should put like torture devices. And so when a kid lies saying that they were sick, we can like cut off their tongue permanently and blah blah blah. And so they're like the guys are like, oh my god, like we can't have this guy for class president. Jeez. And then of course this playboy, he's like, oh, but the girls though, they won't have the punishments because women should be treated respectfully and they should not they should be treated with kindness. So yeah. And the guys are like, yeah, no, we can't have this guy for president. So they had Ataru sign up because of course he has to. He's the main character. And obviously he's like, oh, if I'm class president, then I get all the girls in the class.
That's so dumb. Wow.
Yeah, it's such a stupid reason.
You're so dumb.
And the guys are like, yeah, you know. And then everyone, since the class was so small, they got a tie of 17-17. And obviously Mendo's like, oh my god, how can it be like tied to a loser, blah blah blah. And like the freaking Mendo, since he's like one of those old traditional dudes, he's like, we'll have to have a duel, blah blah blah. And the duel is that he needs to shoot a cannon at each other to see that whoever hits the apple or kills the person, that they win. And I was like, what the
it's so random. What the hell? Cannon?
Yeah, because and then the thing is, Lum, she's just like somewhere in the forest, like she's like trying to take a nap on a tree, but she's looking for Ataru again. So when she sees that Ataru and Mendo are on the roof, she's like, okay, what are these two doing? Because, you know, like, what is the rich dude doing up here with him? And so she like flies in as he's trying to grab a glove to throw at Ataru, because that means that he's dueling him. That means like you're going to start the duel or you choose whoever, you know? And basically, because he threw it at Lum by accident, Ataru's like, oh my God, Lum, he duels you to like a challenge. And she gets so pissed that she's like, oh my God, no one gets away with not backing out of a duel. And he gets electrocuted and whatnot, and he loses the duel instantly. And then he tries to do that sacrificial thing that samurais used to do, where they would stab themselves while the other person would cut their head off. And the girls are like, no, don't do it. We love you, Mendo, don't do it. And that's kind of where like the end of the episode ends. Or at least the first half. And then from there, because he got electrocuted and stuff with Lum, that's when you see that Mendo starts falling in love with Lum.
Okay.
Yeah, and like he's like, oh, like something like snapped in me. Oh, I want to be better than Kakura. Okay. No, it was like he started falling in love, and then like the next day he basically he's like, yeah, Miss Lum, that like you're so beautiful, blah blah blah. I know you can't resist me. And she's like, hell no, like you're ugly, basically, to me.
Jeez.
So yeah, it becomes this love square, you know.
That's so weird. Oh wow.
Yeah. Other than that, I've just been doing school, and that's kind of it.
All right. So that's like the one thing you've been catching up on.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, and for anyone, some context of why it's like kind of, I guess, relevant, or it's like, oh, you know, that he says he's watching the series. It's as we've talked about it during some of our playthroughs and stuff, that he's been watching the older series and reading the manga for a while now.
I definitely have, bro.
Yeah, so that's why him saying that he's watching the remake, he's kind of talking about it in detail. It's because, yeah, he watched all of the old series and he watched the movies.
And he
read the manga, and so that's why he's like been following the series for a while. So him watching the new series is
I've just been pointing out this.
Yeah, it's like he's been preparing for it. You can almost say so. That's pretty cool. And so you've been enjoying it so far, then?
Yeah, it's really good. The third episode had a different ending from the original manga, which was surprising
Hmm.
because they I mean, yeah, I've been kind of going into detail, but obviously this anime is kind of old too. Um in the original source and the original anime, they end up in a limestone cavern, and this dude Mendo, he has what's the name of the thing that Squidward has? The it's he's claustrophobic and nitrophobic. So he freaks out when he's in tight spaces and when he's like in the dark. And so
Jeez.
when he's with Ataru, he's like, "Oh, like I'm scared, blah blah blah." And he's like, "Then why weren't you freaking out with the girls?" And he's like, "Oh, it's because like whenever I'm with girls, like I never freak out, blah blah blah." So on purpose, he like purposely tries to cover his like the girl's eyes to see what he does. And he's like, "Wow, this dude has like a huge pride, blah blah blah." They end up at the end of the cave and they find a spaceship. In the original, they do is they go inside the spaceship and find a frozen alien, and then they end up eating a lot of cat food because they're starving. And they end up finding a hole that leads to outside, and the school's kind of like, "What the hell are you doing in that spaceship?" In this remake, they changed it so that basically Lum, she gets so sick and tired of it being so dark that she gets pissed off and she says, wow, I have to finally light up the place. And so when she electrocutes everyone, the electricity from her transfers to the spaceship that's in the cavern's walls, and it turns it on and it blasts off into space.
Oh, weird.
And it blows up the cavern.
So you think they're gonna do some like anime original stuff or something then, or what do you think?
I think that either they will add some sort of weird filler, even though obviously this anime is like 40 something years old last point. But I think that they might be redoing it, especially because maybe it's like a weird, like, I don't think it's controversial because there is some dumb stuff they say. But I think that it was probably they felt that it was too slow or too dumb. And they just changed it to something more simple to get it out of the way.
Weird. Yeah, it's first taking a totally different direction. It's kind of weird. Like, will it reconnect? Is it gonna do its own thing? Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's weird. That is really weird. It's weird for it to be like a remake. You think somebody made more we call it more faithful.
Accurate.
Yeah, then it goes in a different direction.
It has been, thankfully. It's just that, yeah, there's some stuff they've added because in the second episode, same thing at the end. Um, Ataru, he gets an exorcism performed on him by like Cherry's like niece. And the thing is, she had to get an exorcism on herself because the thing is that she was feeling sick because her whole life she's had like a chronic illness that is unknown. And when the demons left her body, they went to Ataru, and then she performed the exorcism on him, but it just didn't work well. Here, it ends where basically he goes into the hospital and everyone's crying that, oh my God, like you're dying, blah, blah, blah. And he sees a hot nurse and he's like, oh yeah, I'm back now.
So that's different from the original.
Same thing. And then in the original, it's left off on a cliffhanger where it shows that basically in the original manga, he just has the demons on top of him, and then they're all just celebrating the fact that Sakura is not sick anymore.
That's so weird. I wonder why they're changing some stuff up. That's kind of especially the endings. The endings what they keep changing, which is kind of weird. I wonder why.
The endings they changed a lot. Yeah.
I guess you need to keep an eye out and see if it changes very much. Like they end up, I don't know. So far, it's like just like at the end of episodes, it'll be interesting.
The first,
to see.
The second, and the third. Yeah,
it'll be interesting if they end up doing their own things. So, very weird. Alrighty, guys, but there you go. I guess that's kind of like you said. We haven't really done much, so that is our week. As you can see, we mentioned Chainsaw Man. We mentioned whatever that one is about hanging out with the senpai. We mentioned Persona 5 Royal, and we mentioned Urusei Yatsura, the 2022 version. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, go check it out. I think we kind of suggest all of those. We recommend them. So there you go.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there you go. Now, like I said, after we do our weeks, what I want to go over to is a bit of news.
Let's go.
And this week, or I guess it was kind of like the previous week, but I still think it's relevant when we're talking about it. Really quick, what I want to talk about is that it especially fits in with the fact that as this goes up, it'll be Halloween, which means we're in the middle of spooky season.
Let's go.
So for the longest time, we have kind of been lacking survival horror games.
We have
the big two, Capcom and Konami. Konami stopped making games, so we had not had anything new from them. And as for Capcom, they work on Resident Evil, and they have been making some Resident Evil stuff here and there. But they've been a little bit quiet too because they've been talking about like Street Fighter, other stuff.
Mhm.
However, this like last week or so, we got news from basically both of them at the same time, one right after another. So we went from having no survival horror games to having a flood of them. So I just want
It's
to talk about that.
crazy.
Yeah, I just want to talk about that real quick. So starting with the Silent Hill, starting with Konami. Konami had something called the Silent Hill Transmission, where they talked about a few Silent Hill games. That for the longest time they had said that, yeah, supposedly those rumors they're going to bring some stuff back, do some remakes, etc., blah blah blah. And it was one of those things where it's like, hey, I won't believe it till I see it, and they finally talked about it. So the biggest one from that announcement is that they're doing a Silent Hill 2 remake, and they showed a trailer. And as someone who really, really, really loves the original Silent Hill, I will admit I am a bit mixed. Because while the visuals look interesting, it looks like pretty cool. It does look updated, which is nice. I don't know. The
Yeah.
voice acting is different. I honestly really enjoy the original voice actor because he just has like this weird voice that like it fits with the themes of the game and how James is just like a weird guy, James Sunderland. So the fact that they changed the voice to like someone that sounds more normal, it's actually kind of a bad move in my opinion. So I think that's kind of weird. And then the other thing that I'm kind of iffy about, well, a couple things. One thing is that it's being made by someone called Bloober Team. That in the past, the stuff they've made has been kind of like they're not the best with like subtlety.
Yeah. I think I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're not the best with like subtlety or like metaphors. A lot of stuff's like really in your face, and a lot of like their stories are kind of their writing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, if they were just to make like a faithful recreation of the game, that might be cool. But I think that, as usual, they're probably gonna like change some stuff, add some stuff. And when it comes to like a game like Silent Hill, it's supposed to have like a lot of subtlety and like layers of meaning and metaphors. I don't know if like another team can pull it off, unfortunately. So I'm a bit worried about that. The other thing I'm worried about, and which goes into another one of the announcements, is that they're making a new Silent Hill movie. Which, if anyone knows, I think the I think the first Silent Hill movie was like fine for like the first half, and then it's kind of agreed upon the second half is where it got kind of and the second movie wasn't that great at all, So the fact they're making another movie is kind of like, oh no, like another one. Like I don't really know what to think about that. And the part that worries me about the game is that the way they talk about it is like, oh yeah, we're making this game as a tie into the movie,
bruh.
Instead of it being like, yo, we recognize this game is important to people, let's make a remake, kind of like how Capcom does, which we're going to get to in a moment. They're more of like, oh yeah, because we want to have like a tie into the movie, we're making this remake. And it's like, that's kind of worrying too, because how like if the movie adds all sorts of weird stuff, they might integrate to the game, which once again, I don't know if they'll ruin it. So I'm kind of iffy about all that stuff.
That sounds very,
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens to Silent Hill 2 remake. Let's hope it's good. If it's not, it's one of those things where it's like, hey, you can always play the original. At least there's that,
Yeah.
The other stuff I am a bit more excited for instance, they announced something called Silent Hill F that I actually showed you the trailer before we started.
Oh, yeah.
It looks really interesting. It's a spin-off of Silent Hill, set in 1960s Japan, which is already very different because Silent Hill is always in the same town in America. It's like a cursed town. So it's like, why is it 1960s Japan? I don't know. How will that tie in? And the imagery is really creepy, where it's like this like schoolgirl right around, and like these plants start to like take over her basically and kind of like eat her from the inside out until she's all like that vegetation, which is really creepy. And it's made by Ryukishi07, who created Higurashi and Umineko, which are really popular like visual novels / also like anime franchises. So the fact that he's behind this sounds kind of cool, honestly.
That sounds pretty cool. And I remember it's like like a fungi type of thing.
Yeah, it's like a weird fungi that kind of like eats her like from the inside out almost. Not like it's like so creepy looking. That looks really interesting. Then the other one that I'm also really interested in, I think they had like almost nothing. It was more of like a teaser, but it's called Silent Hill Townfall. And all it shows is like some sort of like a radio, and it shows like some sort of like a weird face. And it's made by No Code, which we just played a game by No Code on the Stories Untold one, the text one. Yeah. So it's by No Code, and it's published by Annapurna Interactive. That they've made some pretty good horror stuff before. So it's made by them. So I think that's really interesting. I wonder what the gimmick will be there, you know.
Yeah.
And finally, the last thing for Silent Hill is they mentioned Silent Hill Ascension, where the way it describes it, it almost sounds like it's supposed to be kind of like a community let's play of something kind of like a Telltale game. You know how there's like different options you can like choose and stuff.
Mhm.
It sounds like it's going to be like a community version of that, where people can make decisions and it'll
That
affect the
sounds pretty
story.
interesting.
And I don't know. I mean, it sounds very weird, especially for Silent Hill. But honestly, I know a lot of people are cynical for it. I'll give it a chance. I mean, I think it's really interesting.
It sounds interesting, yeah.
Like why not? Like a thing that has a lot of decisions and the community picks the weird decisions and choices and sees where the story goes. Why not? You know, that sounds interesting enough. So yeah, I'll give it a chance. So that is it for the Silent Hill stuff. So yeah, that's 4 games and a movie. So yeah, out of nowhere, just Konami. They're not making any of it themselves, as you can see. They're getting other studios to make it, but at least they're finally allowing one of their franchises to exist again, which is nice because free Konami with their pachinko machines and stuff, man.
That's what I was about. I was about to mention that. I was like, dude, at least they're letting people do stuff while they make their pachinko machines.
Yeah, exactly. And jumping over to the Capcom side of things, Capcom also had like this little like direct or whatever you want to call it. I always call them directs now because you know I think of Nintendo. Theirs was about upcoming Resident Evil stuff. The first one wasn't that interesting. Well, I don't remember what order they're in, but one of them wasn't that interesting. It was about that game, Resident Evil Reverse or whatever, which is that like multiplayer like campaign thing where you can play as different characters. It's online.
Oh yeah, no,
Not too excited for it.
I'm not into that stuff.
It's just a kind of whatever. And then the other one was kind of cool, but by now, you know, it's probably out. It's the DLC for Resident Evil 8. That's pretty cool. I want to check that out. I think it looks pretty cool. There's not really much to say about it though, because they didn't really show much. All you know is that you play as the daughter of Ethan Winters, and it's about her adventure. So that's pretty cool. The one I do want to talk about though is that they showed footage for Resident Evil 4 remake, and it looked really good. And not only did it look good though, but it also looks like they actually are being really faithful. And it's the kind of remake where they take what already exists
and they add more to it.
Exactly. Like if you've played Resident Evil 4, for instance, if you remember near the beginning, there's a part where those 2 Spanish police that are with you, they get separated from you, and you find that one of them, the car you were driving is like at the bottom of like a bridge, like a cliff.
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, and the implication is that they threw the car off the cliff, and I guess the guy's dead, I think, right? I think that's the implication. And the other one, you see that they're burning him at a stake later, like in the middle of the town square.
Yeah.
Where it starts, it's Leon is walking through the forest, which looks like more dense. It looks like much more like an actual forest. And he comes onto a cabin. Then the original, it's just like a 1-room little shack. Here it's like an actual house. And when he gets to like the basement, he finds the body of like the first policeman.
Oh wow.
So they added to it. Like it's still the same story beats, but they added, so instead of a shack, it's a huge house. And instead of not knowing what happened to one of the guys, you find his body. And then from there, it shows that he goes to like the town square and he fights the people off like he usually does, and blah, blah, blah. But what they showed, it looks really good. Like the combat looks really good. The visuals look really good. They've updated some of like the enemy designs, for instance, which is really cool. And they gave Leon like a new move where it looks like he can parry using his knife. Like literally the guy with the chainsaw like attacks Leon and he uses his knife to parry it and fight it off.
That's crazy.
It's super badass. And yeah, from what they showed, it looks really good. It looks like I said, it looks like they're following the main story that already exists, but adding to it. Like they're going to add some stuff to it. And all the character designs look interesting. Leon looks badass. Ashley looks like more cute than ever. Although I do kind of miss the big monkey ears, but whatever. Yeah. Ada looks interesting because she's supposed to be an Asian character. She looks a bit more Asian, which is interesting that they did decide to make her look more Asian instead of more like ambiguous.
Yeah.
And then the bad guys look really interesting. And then Luis, who's supposed to be the guy that kind of helps you, instead of looking more like Antonio Banderas, more like, I don't know, like more noble, he looks like kind of a scumbag, which is really funny.
Wow.
Like everyone saw him and they're like, I don't know, he looks like a scumbag. But then people were like, you know what? Then again, a lot of what happens is his fault. So fair enough.
Wow.
So there you go. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 remake looks really good. Like I'm really excited. And I remember, I think it comes out like March
of 2023.
I think it was like March 23rd, 2023. Yeah, something like that. But it comes out like really soon. It comes out like early next year, which is really cool.
Wow.
So yeah, guys, Resident Evil stuff really excited for. Silent Hill stuff I'm a bit cautious about, but like I said, it's nice to have all this content coming out. It's pretty cool, you know.
I'm thinking of playing the 4th Resident Evil game.
Like the original one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you've never played it, you should. It's one of those games that everybody should play. It's out on like all systems, so you don't even have an excuse. You can pick like whatever system you want to play it. Weirdly enough, I think I would suggest the Wii version because I just like the motion control for the gun.
Oh, I actually have the gun accessory too.
Oh, do you?
The thing where you put
zapper? The zapper?
Yeah, the zapper thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it works exactly fine with it. Like I don't because I think most of the parts you have to like shake the control, but I think you can kind of make it work where you just leave the nunchuck unconnected or something like that. Yeah. But you can make it work, which is like that's pretty cool actually.
Or just shake the things violently.
Yeah, you can figure it out. But awesome.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys. So that's it for news. That's like I said. Usually this is how we'll cover just a couple of news stories if we think they're relevant. So there you go, another example. Now, the last thing I want to do before we close out, it's not going to be the way it usually is because this time we don't really have like a specific thing to focus on. We don't really have like a series to talk about because it's our first episode. Mm-hmm. But what I want to do really quick, just really because it is spooky season and it is, kind of Halloween when this goes up. What I want to do is I just wanted to really quickly stick to the theme of like spooky or horror or creepy. And I just want to talk about what are some games or anime that we enjoy, that we like suggest are fun to play around this time. So I don't know if you want to go first.
So around this time?
Yeah.
What is one that? Well, I mean, earlier I mentioned Urusei Yatsura. Honestly, since it's one of those fall animes in general, because the original one also came out in October as well, the same exact day as well, which is surprising. And same thing goes for the manga. It came out in October as well, meaning that there's a reoccurring thing like where she tried to put it in fall, and the series actually starts in fall, I think.
Oh, weird. I wonder why.
I think it's specific. Like fall. Yeah, I think it starts in fall or March, like in spring.
Yeah.
But the point is I would recommend that because it's the newest thing. It's one of those old series where if you like old anime, I definitely recommend it, Not only would I recommend the remake, but the old one. I mean, yeah, the old one has its stuff,
But it's still worth watching.
But it's worth watching. Manga as well. Another anime series I would recommend is Soul Eater. Soul Eater's a good one. Soul Eater's a good one. I never finished it, but I liked it a lot. Like so far when I was getting into it, it has its creepy stuff and I mean, it has gore, so I mean, it kind of fits in with the creepy stuff.
It's not overly gory or creepy though. That's the thing too. Don't think
it just depends. It just depends on the
horror series. It's not a horror series. I think the best way to describe it, it's like an anime version of. It kind of reminds me a bit of like Night Before Christmas.
Mm-hmm. It has the vibes of it.
It has a setting where it just feels like it's always Halloween or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Like it's Halloween Town or something.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, if you guys have never even seen it, it even has like a moon and sun that like has like a creepy smile and has like blood in its mouth.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that I would definitely recommend. It has some great characters, some hot ones too. So I have to mention that too. Like there's a hot witch cat lady.
There's a hat.
Yeah, there's a hat. Do you know, guys? No, there's a hot cat lady with a witch hat.
Yeah, Blair's pretty cute.
Yeah, and there's a kid named Black Star. That's his name, right?
Yeah, Black Star.
Yeah, he has that like that like shonen protagonist vibe to him, And then same thing, he also has a hot partner.
Tsubaki. She's like a ninja. She's like a ninja sort of girl. Yeah.
Yeah. There's some cool characters, And then there's like a dude that's literally just deaf, and he has a son named Deaf Jr.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's a series where it's all about people teaming up with like their partner's weapon, like literally living weapon. They can transform into a weapon. It's all about them hunting witches for like the greater good. And it just has like this overall kind of like Halloween vibe. So I can see why you would suggest that for this season. It really fits in. Like it's not horror exactly, but it does have like that weird, like creepy kind of aesthetic to it.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really think of anything much. I mean, video games, yeah, I would recommend because we also mentioned we can talk about video games. Would mention I mean not would I recommend The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. I
Oh yeah,
recommend that. I
yeah.
definitely
If we're gonna
recommend
pick
that.
like a creepy-ish one, that's a good one.
It's
Yeah.
very. Here's the thing too. If you're that type of person that wants to get a task done, or you want like you have a motivation for doing something in a video game, that game gives you one of the best motivations for completing a game. Honestly,
Yeah. Because for anyone who doesn't know, that's the one that's the sequel to. Hopefully, everybody knows about the game. If you don't, it's the sequel to Ocarina of Time.
it's a very direct one.
Yeah, it's originally on the N64, and it's a game where literally Link strolls into town, and there's this creepy moon just hanging out at all times.
It has a creepy smile and everything.
Yeah, and basically the plot is that if you don't stop the moon from falling in 3 days, it's gonna obliterate the town.
The whole entire world. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, because it takes place in a town, right? But it's the whole world apparently. And yeah, it's just this thing where you have to like relive the same 3 days, going back and forth across time, doing all of these like dungeons and missions and stuff. And it's just so good though, because not only does it have that creepy vibe and that like dark tone.
Oh, dude, and then the music can be creepy too.
Exactly, but it deals with like death, it deals with loss, it deals with anger and all sorts of grief.
Denial,
it deals with all these like emotions and like really dark stuff. And it's just crazy, just like doing all these missions and getting attached to the people as you help them and seeing their story. And like the final boss is one of the creepiest bosses ever. And
it's
It's just so weird. But yeah, that's a good game. What are you saying?
Oh, wait, real quick. When you consider that what Link has gone through before this with Ganondorf, this is like another level of like PTSD stacked on top of it too.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same Link. So it's like he fought Ganondorf, went through all that
as an adult. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's his second adventure dealing with even more crazy supernatural stuff. So exactly. And yeah, just to close it out, what I was going to say is like, yeah, even though it's not like a horror game and it's not necessarily like creepy, like on purpose. I don't know how to describe it. Like once again, it's not like a horror game necessarily. It's not terror.
It's like creepy, but it's not scary. That's why I would go for.
But it just has all sorts of unsettling, really weird things to it. That you're right. It really does fit in for like this season to like do like a playthrough of that. All right, on to me. You took one of mine. I was going to mention Majora's Mask. One that I would suggest games wise. Well, first of all, I would suggest the Silent Hill games. We mentioned those earlier. All the Silent Hill games are top notch. Well, not all of them. The first like 3 or 4. After that, they go pretty downhill. But the first like 3 or 4 games I recommend. They're really good. Obviously, we kind of mentioned Resident Evil 4. The original still holds up. I think it's awesome. And then when it comes to games, when I was going to mention that once again, even though it's not exactly like a terror game or horror game, Luigi's Mansion is perfect for October.
Oh, dude, that's a good game.
Yeah, we play that on the channel. Oh, man, I don't know if
I always revisit that game.
Yeah, we play on the channel. The LP is up. I don't know how long it's been since we did it though, but I would say go check out the LP, try the game out for yourself, especially that first Luigi's Mansion. Even though I like all 3 of them, I think they're all really good. The first one specifically is like the closest, it's the closest to being like a horror game, like a kid's horror game, because like, you're just around the mansion, it's quiet, you're by yourself, it's dark, the way the ghosts attack you. I don't know, it's just like
the dialogue can be very creepy as well.
Yeah, it has like all sorts of unsettling things. It's just so good. So that's it for games. I think when it comes to like anime and stuff, one that I suggest, it's not even really an anime, it's a manga, and I've once again talked about on the channel. I guess check it out. It's this manga called Franken Fran. It's about this. Yeah, it's like really. It's about this girl that I guess she is like a Frankenstein's monster, right? She's like a monster, and her master for some reason, I don't think they ever really explained. He used to be like this top-notch surgeon / like mad doctor, and he went away. And I don't think we ever find out where he went. And she's the one who kind of takes over his business, and she's the one that practices surgery now. And the thing is that it's very gory, it's very creepy and unsettling, and like a lot of the imagery is really like dark. And it's like basically like the people she deals with, they end up with like how you can call it, like really like dark fates, like almost like poetic justice sometimes, or like ironic twists. Like one of the first stories is this guy that he's like, oh, my son died, and he died in an accident. And I think the reason that he wants the son alive is because he purposely killed the son, but then he needs him alive because I think to like get the inheritance or something. Like he needs
Bruh.
the money so he can like take it from the son or something. I don't really remember too well, right? And
Yeah.
so he asked her if she can do something about it, and she says yeah. And then what she ends up doing is she ends up like knocking out the father, and she ends up putting the son's face on the back of his head, and she ends up
Yeah.
like breaking the bones. So like the neck turns around like the mayor from Nightmare Before Christmas,
Oh yeah, where he has a double face. Yeah.
and that way he can like keep talking to like his son supposedly, and so like the dude's stuck like being stuck with the son on the back of his head. And it's like this weird thing where he tried to kill him, try to get rid of him, only wanted him alive for his own gain. And like now he's stuck living with him forever. You know what I mean? It's like
Wow,
really creepy.
that's crazy.
And there's like another one about like a girl that, for instance, the same thing. She wants like some sort of plastic surgery done so that
Yeah.
she can I don't know, it was like to attract boys or something. And so I think she ends up turning her into like a weird beetle thing that where her pheromones will like attract men or something. So she has like
Oh.
her face on like a huge like creepy bug.
That's crazy.
So it's all sorts of really weird stuff like that. It's like really creepy, really gory. It kind of has like some dark humor to it, but it's like perfect for like
Yo,
Halloween.
Lord Byron wrote that.
No, but it's just like so creepy and weird. So I think it fits definitely with like that spooky, creepy Halloween vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to maybe another anime series, Soul Eater is a good one. That's a really good one. I wish I thought about that. One that I was thinking of that's kind of creepy, kind of weird, but it's also like a romantic one. But I think it's kind of underrated. It's called oh my god, I'm not remembering it now. It's something about like the Dusk Maiden. Oh my god, I'm not gonna remember what it's called actually. Damn it.
The House of Mouse.
What? No. It's something about like Dusk Maiden of Amnesia or something. I don't remember what it's called actually. Damn, I should have looked it up before I mentioned it. But it's this really good anime about this guy that he finds like this like ghost girl, and they kind of have like a relationship going, but it's really tragic as they kind of start unraveling how she died and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it actually has like some really creepy vibes to it. And it's kind of she haunts like this room, like a room that they use for like their club meetings and stuff. But and like I said, it's kind of like sweet because it's like a romance. You know, they have like a romance, him and the ghost girl, but it has like a lot of creepy stuff showing how she died and other stuff around the school. So it's like a really good mix of kind of like creepy stuff and like romance and stuff.
Oh wow, yeah.
And then another one that I suggest that I think is like a good horror one. We mentioned it earlier, actually. We were talking about the Silent Hill thing. It's called Higurashi. And I think it's called Higurashi When They Cry or something like that. And what's referring to, it's talking about cicadas and how they cry.
They make their noise, yeah.
Yeah, during like the fall season, like as the sun is setting. It's like kind of that creepy vibe. And I don't know about the new one. I ended up not watching too much of the new one. I actually got kind of bored. I ended up being like really long, and I didn't hear very, very good things about it. But if you watch like the older Higurashi When They Cry, I've heard it's really good. It basically has to do with this town that like there's like a curse that drives people to like be like ruthless killers, basically. And it has kind of like a time travel aspect to it. And it's like really gory, really creepy, and it's like really mysterious. You don't really know what's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I suggest that one, Higurashi When They Cry. It's like really good for the season.
Yeah, that sounds very creepy.
And yeah, I know there's all sorts of like there's like a visual novel, there's the anime, there's the newer anime. So I mean it's up to you to kind of decide where to jump in. But I would just say look into the franchise. Like the story's supposed to be like really good. So yeah.
That sounds very interesting.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys, but I think that's about it. As you can see, that is the layout of how a podcast would normally go. Like I said, we talk about our week, we talk about some news, then we talk about some sort of like a theme or a certain topic. And that's how I think we will run stuff, at least for this foreseeable future. Over time, stuff can change depending on how big the podcast gets. Maybe we'll throw in different segments, different breaks, and ad reads, and depending on how big we get and stuff. But for now, this is kind of like the basic setup we've thought of. So if you guys like what you saw, let us know. Either like this or give it a thumbs up or leave a comment, whatever you need to do. But let us know that you liked it. Give us your positive feedback as well as negative feedback as well, so we can learn what we're doing.
So we can prove. Yeah,
exactly. And for now, this is WEEB'S, and it has been Legend Jonathan.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're out for now, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.